Seung-hyun sits at a table in the corner of the restaurant. He's wearing a light suit, his hair is cut short, and his hands rest peacefully on the table. He's waiting for his order. The lights are dim, soft music plays, and evening has already fallen outside. He looks up and sees her. A girl sits 3 tables away from him. She's wearing a black silk floor-length dress, her hair red, curly, golden in the lamplight. She has a slender figure, smooth skin, and full lips. She looks straight at him, doesn't look away. A second, 2, 5. Seung-hyun is used to attention. He knows what fear, intrigue, respect, or dread look like in others' eyes. But this look seems different. She looks at him as if she wants to say something, but hesitates. He raises an eyebrow slightly, testing to see if she'll look away. She doesn't look away. He chuckles to himself. He finds this interesting. Usually, people try not to look at him for too long. But this girl looks at him, and there's no fear in her gaze. There's only a strange calm, or even a challenge. Seung-hyun decides to approach. He stands up, straightens his jacket, and slowly walks toward her table. The room is quiet. A few guys at nearby tables glance at him, but he ignores them. He's focused only on her. As he approaches, the girl is still looking in his direction. Now he sees that her eyes are slightly narrowed, as if she's trying to make out something in the dim light. She doesn't blink. She looks completely calm. Seung-hyun stops in front of her. "Good evening," he says, bowing his head slightly. His voice is even, calm. "You've been looking at me for several minutes. I thought you might want to meet me." She looks up. Now that he's this close, he sees her eyes narrow a little more. She blinks once, then twice, and suddenly her expression changes. This is not interest. This is not a challenge. This is fright. She jerks back in her chair, her fingers gripping the edge of the table. Her lips part, but she doesn't speak. She looks as if she's just realized she's been looking at someone without realizing it. She stutters, her voice low, a little hoarse. "I wasn't looking at you. I mean, I was looking, but I didn't know I was looking at anyone in particular." Seung-hyun freezes. He didn't expect such an answer. "My eyesight is bad," she says quickly, and now there's a hint of embarrassment in her voice. "I'm waiting for a friend. I forgot my glasses at home. I was just looking that way because there's a light there. I can't see faces in the distance. I didn't realize I was looking right at you. I'm sorry." She looks away, her cheeks darkening. Even through her skin tone, it's clear she's uncomfortable. Seung-hyun stands across from her, his hand still resting on the back of the chair opposite him. He feels a strange feeling welling up in his chest. He feels awkward. For the first time in a long time, he feels like an idiot. He thinks about leaving, saying, "Sorry, I made a mistake," and returning to his table. That would be logical. That would be easier. But he doesn't want to leave. He looks at her, even now, when she's embarrassed and trying to hide her gaze. She looks interesting. There's something alive and genuine about her. Not artificial. She wasn't trying to catch his attention, wasn't flirting. She was simply looking at the light, and he took it personally. Seung-hyun exhales, the corners of his lips lifting slightly. "So you didn't see me," he says calmly. "And here I was thinking I was lucky today." She raises her head and looks at him. There's still tension in her eyes, but she doesn't look away. "I'm really sorry," she says quietly. "I'm so embarrassed." "No need to apologize." He removes his hand from the back of the chair and takes a step back, giving her space. "But since I'm here, maybe we should introduce ourselves?" She looks at him doubtfully, her fingers still gripping the edge of the table. She clearly doesn't know how to react. "I'm Seung-hyun," he says simply. "Can I sit down?" She hesitates. She looks at the empty chair opposite, then at him, then at the chair again. "I'm waiting for a friend," she says cautiously. "If she comes, I'll leave." He shrugs. "No problem." She is silent for a few seconds. Then she nods slowly. Seung-hyun sits down opposite her. He rests his hands on the table, relaxed, not looming over her. He sees that she's still tense, and tries to be gentle. "Do you have a name?" he asks. She remembers how he introduced himself and now understands that she should respond in kind. "Liena," she says. "Liena," he repeats. He likes the sound of her name. "Nice to meet you, even if you haven't seen me." She almost smiles but holds back. She's still awkward, but the tension is starting to ease. "It wasn't really on purpose," she says again. "I usually wear glasses or contacts, but today—" "Don't explain." He raises his hand, stopping her. "I already realized I was wrong. but I don't regret coming up to her. She looks at him. Now that he's sitting so close, she can see his face. Short blonde hair, blue eyes, a neat suit. He looks confident, but not brazen. And he doesn't push her. Do you always approach strange girls in restaurants? She asks. No. He shakes his head. They usually look at me consciously. She realizes he's joking, and this time she actually smiles. It's a soft smile, and Seung-hyun notices how her face changes when she smiles. Can I get you anything? He asks, nodding at the menu. While you're waiting for your friend, she wants to refuse, but her throat is dry. She remembers that she's been sitting with an empty glass of water for half an hour. Water, she says. Just water. He raises his hand, and the waiter arrives within 3 seconds. Seung-hyun orders fresh lemon water for her and coffee for himself. The waiter nods and leaves. Liana notices how quickly the waiter approaches and how he nods. Not his usual slight smile, but reservedly, respectfully, as if he knows this man, as if he's a little afraid. She looks at Seung-hyun more closely. His light suit looks expensive, but not flashy. His hands are well-groomed, but she notices old scars on his knuckles. Small, almost invisible, but they're there. What do you do? She asks cautiously. He pauses a second longer than necessary. Then he answers, business. Which? He doesn't answer right away. Instead, he looks at her with a slight smile. Do you always ask so many questions at the first meeting? She realizes he's avoiding the question. This worries her. Only when a man approaches me himself, she replies. He grins. He likes that she's not silent or shy. She has a backbone. At that moment, water and coffee arrive. The waiter places a glass in front of Liana and a cup in front of Seung-hyun. He does so quickly, carefully, without looking up at Seung-hyun, and then disappears again. Liana drinks water. She senses something odd about this situation. The way the waiters act around him, the way he doesn't answer simple questions. She doesn't know who he is, but she knows he's no ordinary guest. Listen, she says, setting her glass down. I don't know who you are, and your waiters act like you're the boss here. It's a little unnerving. Seung-hyun looks at her calmly. He didn't expect her to say it outright. Most people in this situation pretend not to notice. But she says what she thinks. I'm a frequent guest here, he says evenly. They're just being polite. It's more than politeness, she says, not looking away. He is silent for a few seconds. Then he leans forward slightly. Okay, he says. Let's make a deal. I'm not asking you about your personal life, your work, or why you're alone in a restaurant in a black dress. And you're not asking me about my business. Deal? She looks at him. There's no threat in his voice, but there's steel. He's not joking. Why don't you want to talk about work? She asks. Because if I start answering, you'll most likely leave, he says simply. The words hang in the air. Liana feels a chill in her chest. She doesn't know what it means, but she knows it's best not to ask. She takes another sip of water. Okay, she says. No questions about work, but then don't ask me anything personal either. Agreed, he nods. They sit in silence for a few seconds. Music plays in the background, and the room is quiet. Lena looks at him and thinks he's both attractive and intimidating. There's a calm in his blue eyes that only comes from those accustomed to being in control. Then what are we going to talk about? She asks. Whatever you want. He shrugs. Tell me why you chose this place. She tells him she loves the restaurant's food, that she comes here sometimes after work, that she was expecting a friend today, but she was running late. He listens attentively, without interrupting. She feels like he's remembering every word. Half an hour later, her friend still hasn't arrived. Liana receives a message. Sorry, I can't make it. She looks at the screen and sighs. Problems? Asks Seung-hyun. My friend canceled the meeting, she says. So you're free now. He looks at her with a slight smile. She doesn't answer. She's thinking about ending the evening and going home, but at the same time, she doesn't want to leave. There's something about this man that draws her attention. I'll take you, he says, seeing her doubts. I'll do it myself, she answers quickly. I'll just walk you to your car. He raises his palms. No pressure, she agrees. It's fresh outside. He walks next to her, not touching her, not trying to take her hand. They leave the restaurant, and a black car is parked at the entrance. The driver opens the door when he sees Seung-hyun. Liana stops. Is this your car? She asks. Yes, he nods. I can give you a ride. No thanks. She shakes her head. I'll call a taxi. He doesn't insist. He stands next to her, his hands in his trouser pockets, and looks at her. There's no pressure in his gaze. He simply waits. It was nice meeting you, she says. Me too, he replies. Even though you didn't see me. She smiles. This time, genuinely. Good night, Seung-hin. Good night, Liana. She leaves in a taxi, and he remains standing outside the restaurant. He watches the lights recede. Then he gets into the car. Home? The driver asks. No. He looks out the window. Drive around the block. He wants to make sure her taxi arrives safely. It's a habit. He always checks everything about people he's interested in. The next day, Liana wakes up thinking about him. She can't explain why, but this man is stuck in her head. She remembers his calm voice, his blue eyes, his strange answers about work. After work, she goes downtown. She knows there are a lot of offices in that area, and she thinks he might work there. She doesn't understand why she's looking for him. She just wants to understand who he is. She enters several buildings, asking the concierges if they know a man by that name. No one answers. At one point, the concierge looks at her suspiciously and says, "You better not ask such questions." This alarms her, but she continues. She enters a small shop next to the restaurant where they met. The clerk is an older man. She describes Seung-hyun. The man turns pale. I don't know of any such thing, he says too quickly. And I advise you not to look. Liana leaves the store. She stands outside and feels anxiety growing in her chest. It's as if everyone is in cahoots. No one wants to talk about him. No one even wants to admit they know him. She returns home in disarray. That evening, when she is almost ready to go to bed, the doorbell rings. She opens the door. A courier stands at the threshold with a huge bouquet of white roses. She's never received flowers that big. She takes the bouquet, signs her name, and closes the door. Inside the bouquet is a small note. It has just 2 words. 8 o'clock. Liana looks at the flowers. She doesn't know how he found out her address. She never gave it to him. It frightens her. But at the same time, she understands that it's his handwriting. He wrote it the same way he spoke, briefly, calmly, without unnecessary words. She decides to come. In the evening, she wears the same black dress. Not because she doesn't have another one, but because she wants to feel confident. She arrives at the address she wrote on the back of the note. This isn't a restaurant. It's a private building. Tall, with dark windows. 2 men in black suits stand at the entrance. They let her in without asking questions, simply nodding. Inside, it turns out to be a private club. Soft lighting, leather sofas, soft music. The people at the tables are expensively dressed and speak quietly. Liana recognizes several faces. She's seen them on the news, in crime reports. Her heart starts to beat faster. Seung-hyun is sitting in the far corner. He's wearing a light suit, the same one he wore the first time. He stands up when he sees her. He approaches her, takes her hand, and leads her to his table. You came, he says. There's no surprise in his voice. He knew she would come. How did you find out my address? She asks bluntly. He sits down opposite her and looks at her calmly. I have people who can find anyone, he says simply. She looks at him. Now she understands why no one wanted to talk about him, why the concierges turned pale at the mere description. He's not just a businessman. He's someone much more serious. She wants to get up and leave, but her legs won't obey her. In this place, in this club, in his presence, she feels trapped. Are you afraid? He asks quietly. I don't know, she answers honestly. He nods as if he had been expecting this answer. I won't harm you, he says, but I want you to understand who I am, at least roughly, so that you can make your own choice. She looks into his eyes. There is no threat in them. There is only calm confidence. What choice? She asks. Stay or go, he says. Today, right now. At that moment, his phone vibrates on the table. He looks at the screen and his face hardens for a second. He picks up the phone but doesn't answer. He puts it face down. Liana notices a notification on the screen. She sees only a few words in Korean and the note, urgent, cargo intercepted. She looks away, but she remembers. Seung-hyun looks at her. Are you ready to make a choice? He asks. She takes a deep breath. I want to know what cargo means, she says quietly. He clenches his jaw. He is silent for a few seconds. I told you. His voice grows cold. If I start answering, you'll leave. Maybe. She doesn't look away. But I want to know the truth. He leans closer, his voice quieter but harsher. The truth is, your safety depends on how little you know, he says. The less you know about me, the safer you are. This isn't a game. This isn't a test. This is protection. She feels a chill run down her spine. You scare me, she says. I know. He leans back in his chair. And I don't like it. But I won't lie to you. I'm not the kind of person you can build a normal relationship with. She looks at him. In his eyes, she sees not coldness, but something else. Something akin to fatigue. Then why did you come to me? She asks. He is silent for a long time. Then he says quietly, because you looked at me, as if I were an ordinary person. And even when it turned out you didn't see me, you didn't look at me any differently. You just talked to me. She doesn't know what to answer. They sit in silence. Music plays around them. People talk. But for the two of them, at that moment, only this table and this conversation exist. I'm not leaving, she says finally. He looks up. But I won't pretend I don't notice something strange, she continues. If you want me around, you'll answer my questions. Not all at once, but gradually. He looks at her for a long time. Then he nods. We have a deal, he says. She feels the tension ease a little. She doesn't know if she's doing the right thing, but at that moment, she feels like she should give it a chance. They spend another 2 hours at the club. They talk about music, movies, the city. He doesn't bring up work, and she doesn't ask. But there's something new between them now. The understanding that they've both made a choice. He chose to show her a part of his life. She chose to stay, knowing it was dangerous. When she leaves, he walks her to the car again. This time, she lets him drive her home. They drive in silence. Not because there's nothing to talk about, but because words are unnecessary right now. A car stops in front of her house. She opens the door, but turns around before getting out. See you tomorrow? She asks. He looks at her, a slight smile appearing on his face. See you tomorrow, he replies. She gets out. The car drives away. Leanna stands at the entrance and watches the lights recede. She understands that her life has just changed, and she doesn't yet know in what direction. A few days pass. Leanna returns to her normal life. She works in a small workshop where she makes jewelry. It's a quiet place with large windows and wooden tables. She likes it here. She loves the smell of metal and the silence as she focuses on the details. On Thursday morning, she approaches the workshop door and sees that the lock is broken. The door is slightly open. Her heart starts beating faster. She carefully pushes the door open and steps inside. Everything inside is turned upside down. Tables are overturned. Tools are scattered across the floor. Drawers are pulled out, their contents spilled out. Her work, jewelry she spent weeks laboring over, lies strewn across the floor. Some are broken. Some are simply trampled. Leanna stands in the middle of the workshop, unable to move. She looks at the chaos, trying to figure out what they were looking for. But she quickly realizes nothing is missing. Her laptop is still there. The cash register is untouched. The money she left in the drawer is still there. Some didn't take the things. Some simply destroyed them. She calls security. Then she sits on the steps by the entrance and waits. The police arrive an hour later. They inspect the premises and ask questions. They say it's possible they were just random vandals, but Leanna doesn't believe them. She knows it's not a coincidence. That evening, she calls Seung Hyun. He doesn't answer. She leaves a message, briefly explaining what happened. An hour passes. 2. She calls again. Silence. The next morning, she wakes up to a message from him. One word. Got it. Nothing more. Seung Hyun disappears for 2 days. Leanna doesn't know where he is. She doesn't know what she's doing. She continues to go to work, but the workshop now looks different. She put a new lock on it, cleaned everything, but the feeling of unease persists. Every time she opens the door, she expects to find more devastation, but nothing happens. On the 3rd day, he shows up at her house, late in the evening. She opens the door and sees him in the dark hallway. He's wearing black, no jacket. He looks tired, but calm. Are you okay? She asks. Yes. He steps inside. He looks around. Then he turns to her. They won't bother you anymore, he says. The words sound simple, as if he were talking about the weather. But Leanna hears something in his voice that makes her freeze. Who? She asks. Who did this? He looks at her. He doesn't look away. It doesn't matter, he says. What matters is that it won't happen again. Seung Hun. She takes a step forward. Someone broke into my workshop. Someone broke my things. I have a right to know. He remains silent. His face remains calm, but she sees how tense his shoulders are. You have the right to be safe, he says finally. And I've ensured that. She wants to ask more. She wants to demand answers. But she looks at him and understands that he won't say more. Not now. She retreats. Okay, she says quietly. He stays with her overnight. They don't talk about what happened. He sits on the couch, looking out the window, while she drinks tea in the kitchen. There's tension between them, but she doesn't know how to relieve it. 2 days after this incident, Leanna picks up her mail. Among the regular envelopes, she finds one without a return address. It's thin and made of paper. She opens it in the kitchen. There is a photograph inside. Old photo, faded around the edges. It's of Seung Hyun, younger than he is now. His hair is a little longer, his face more open. He's standing next to another man. They're smiling, their shoulders touching. A friendly photo, but the second man's face has been cut out, carefully, with a blade. In place of a face, there's nothing but emptiness. Leanna turns the photograph over. On the back, printed in neat English letters, is the message, "Ask him where his best friend went." She looks at these words. Her fingers grow cold. She reads them over and over again. She's been walking around with this photo in her bag all day. She doesn't know what to do. Should she show it to him? Ask? Or pretend she never received it? She decides to tell. They meet in the park. Seung Hyun suggested they go for a walk because the day was warm. He's waiting for her on a bench, wearing light-colored pants and a shirt. He looks calm, even relaxed. Leanna approaches. She holds the bag in front of her, her fingers clutching the edge. "Are you okay?" he asks, noticing her tension. "I received something," she says. "In the mail." She takes out an envelope, takes out a photograph, and hands it to him. Seung Hyun takes the photo. He looks at it for a few seconds. Leanna sees his face change. At first, he simply examines the image. Then his eyes find the cutout area. Then he turns the photograph over and reads the inscription. And at that moment, everything changes. His face turns icy. Not angry, not scared. Cold. So cold that Leanna feels like the temperature around her has dropped a few degrees. He clutches the photo in his hand. His jaw is tense. His eyes stare into space, past it, into nothingness. He doesn't move. He doesn't speak. He just sits there, clutching the photo so tightly that it crumples. "Seung Hyun," she calls quietly. He doesn't react. "Seung Hyun." She touches his hand. "What does this mean?" He looks at her. She sees something in his eyes she hadn't noticed before. Not cold, not anger, pain. A deep, old pain he's been hiding for a long time. "Where did you get this?" he asks. His voice is low and even, but she can hear the tension in it. "It came in the mail," she says. "No return address. I don't know who sent it." He stands up. Abruptly. The bench creaks. He looks at the photo, then at her, then at the photo again. "Who gave this to you?" he asks, more harshly. "Who spoke to you?" "Nobody." She stands up too. "I'm telling the truth. It came in an envelope. I don't know who sent it." He looks at her. She sees doubt in his eyes. Not because he doesn't believe her, but because he doesn't know who to trust at all. "Seung Hyun, tell me." She takes a step towards him. "Who is this man? What happened?" He looks at the photograph, at the cutout face, the inscription on the back. "Don't ask," he says. "I already asked." She doesn't back down. "I have a right to know. They send me things like this. Someone broke into my workshop. I can't live in ignorance." He turns to face her. His face is calm again, but this calmness frightens her more than the scream. "Do you want to know?" he asks. "Yes." "Then be prepared for the fact that, after this answer, you won't be able to pretend you don't know anything. You won't be able to just walk away." "I can't just leave anyway," she says. "Not anymore." He looks at her for a long time. Several seconds. A minute. Then he takes a step back. "No," he says. "Not now." She wants to say something else, but he is already turning around. "Seung Hyun!" She holds out her hand. He doesn't turn around. "I'll handle it," he throws over his shoulder. "Don't wait for me." And he leaves. Walking quickly along the park path, Leanna watches him go. She doesn't run after him. She doesn't shout. She simply stands in the middle of the alley and feels the first drops of rain fall on her face. The rain starts suddenly. At first, it's just a few drops. Then it gets heavier. Leanna stays where she is. She doesn't leave. She stands in the rain and looks to where it has disappeared behind the trees. She is soaking wet. Her hair is stuck to her face. Her dress is heavy with water. But she doesn't move. 10 minutes later, she realizes he won't be back. She slowly walks toward the park exit. She gets into a taxi. She goes home. At home, she changes into dry clothes. She sits on the bed and stares at the wall. She replays his face in her mind the moment he saw the photograph, the look in his eyes, the pain she saw there. She tries to call him. He doesn't answer. She writes a message. It's read, but there's no answer. A day passes, a second, a third. He doesn't get in touch. Leanna doesn't sleep well. She checks her phone every few minutes. She eats almost nothing. She goes to work, but she can't concentrate. Her hands move, but her mind is preoccupied with only one thing. Where is he? What's wrong with him? She's grown attached to this man. Despite knowing practically nothing about him, she doesn't know where he lives. She doesn't know his phone number by heart, only the one saved in her contacts. She doesn't know who to turn to if something happens to him. She understands that for her, he only exists when he decides to appear, and this frightens her more than any photograph. On the third day, she's sitting in the workshop, sorting through her tools. Her hands are shaking. She's angry at herself for letting this happen, for letting him into her life without knowing anything about him. In the evening, she returns home. She goes up to her floor. She takes out her keys and sees him. Seung Hyun is sitting on the floor by her door. His back is against the wall. His legs are stretched out. His eyes are closed. He looks exhausted. He is wearing dark clothes. His shirt is wrinkled. His hair is tangled. She notices a fresh abrasion on his face, on his cheekbone. Small, but noticeable. The skin around it is swollen. She stops, looks at him. He opens his eyes. He lifts his head. His gaze is heavy, but when he sees her, his face softens slightly. "You're here," he says quietly. His voice is hoarse, as if he's been silent for a long time. "I live here," she replies. "Have you been here long?" "I don't know." He tries to get up. He moves slowly. "A few hours, maybe more." She looks at his bruise, at his tired face, at the dirt on his shoes. "What happened?" she asks. He straightens up. He looks down at her. His eyes are calmer now than they were 3 days ago in the park. There's no icy fury in them. There's only weariness. "Can I come in?" he asks. "Please." She is silent for a few seconds. Then she opens the door. "Come in." He enters the apartment. He looks around. She notices that he's clutching his ribs as he bends over. Not hard, but she notices. "Are you hurt?" she asks. "No." He sits down on the sofa. "I'm just tired." She doesn't believe him, but she doesn't insist. She goes to the kitchen, pours him some water. She brings the first aid kit. "Let me see," she says, sitting down next to me. He doesn't resist. She treats the cut on his cheekbone. He winces, but remains silent. Her fingers touch his skin. He closes his eyes. "I won't ask questions," she says quietly. "Not now." He opens his eyes. He looks at her. "Thank you," he says. "But you'll promise me something." She puts the cotton wool aside. "Someday you'll tell me everything. Not now, but someday. You promise?" He looks at her for a long moment. She sees the struggle in his eyes. Part of him wants to say no, wants to protect her, but another part knows she won't back down now. "I promise," he says. These two words are heavy. She feels they mean more to him than to anyone else. In his world, words are precious. "Okay," she nods. "Then stay today. Get some rest." He nods. He doesn't argue. The night passes peacefully. He sleeps on the couch. She is in her room. In the morning, she wakes up and hears him talking on the phone in the kitchen. His voice is quiet. She can't make out the words. When she comes out, he has already put the phone away. "Coffee?" she asks. "Yes, thank you." They drink coffee together. They don't talk about anything important. They talk about the weather, about what she'll be doing today. A normal conversation. But there's something new between them now. The understanding that he's given his word, and she will wait. Over the next few weeks, their relationship deepens. They see each other almost every day. He comes to her, or she comes where he invites. He doesn't talk about his work, and she doesn't ask. But she notices the details. When they're together, he never answers his calls. His phone might vibrate several times in a row, but he doesn't pick up. He just stares at the screen and puts the phone in his pocket. He never steps away to talk. He never leaves her alone for a few minutes to take care of business. He completely isolates her from his work, and the more she notices this, the more she realizes he's doing it on purpose. He doesn't want her to see this part of his life. He wants her to simply see him as Seung-hyun, a man who comes over, drinks coffee, and walks around the city with her. But Liana is not blind. One Saturday, she goes to the mall. She needs to buy new tools for work. She walks around the stores, window shopping. She leaves one and heads for the escalator. At that moment, a man approaches her. She doesn't notice him right away. He appears next to her suddenly. He's of average height, dressed in ordinary clothes, and has an unremarkable face. He stands so close that she can feel his breath. "Are you Liana?" he asks quietly. Quickly, his eyes dart around. She steps back. "Who are you?" "Listen carefully," he says, almost in a whisper. "You're playing with fire. You don't know who you're dealing with. He's not who he says he is. You have time to leave before it's too late." Liana's breath catches. "What are you talking about?" "You know who I mean." He takes a step closer. "Get away from him, before he decides you're a problem, and he solves problems quickly." At that moment, she notices movement at the entrance to the store. Two men in black jackets suddenly turn their heads in their direction. They are looking directly at the stranger. The man notices them too. His face changes. "Forget this conversation," he snaps and quickly leaves, disappearing into the crowd in a matter of seconds. Liana stands in the middle of the mall. Her heart is pounding. She looks at the men in black jackets. They look at her. Then one of them takes out his phone and says something into it. She quickly leaves without turning around. All day, she thinks about what the stranger said. He solves problems quickly. She remembers Seung-hyun disappearing for 2 days after her workshop was ransacked. How he returned with the words, "They won't bother you anymore." What did he do? Who did he see? What does solving problems mean? She can't sleep. Questions are spinning in her head. She realizes she can't sit idle any longer. If someone is trying to intimidate her, if someone wants her to leave Seung-hyun, she needs to figure out who it is and why. Liana begins her investigation. She's cautious. She doesn't ask direct questions, but she's starting to notice more. She remembers the names people say around Seung-hyun. She remembers the places he takes her. She makes notes on her phone, then deletes them. A few days later, she gets her chance. They meet at a restaurant. Seung-hyun goes to the restroom, leaving his phone on the table. The screen lights up. A message arrives. She doesn't want to look, but her eyes fall on the screen. The text is in English. She manages to read. The delivery issue is closed. There will be no further problems. She looks away, but the word closed sticks in her head. When Seung-hyun returns, she acts as usual, but inside, she's seething. She needs to know what that word means. She needs to know who she's dealing with. At the next meeting, she decides to take a risky step. He leaves his phone on the table again when he goes out. This time she's ready. She has a voice recorder on her phone. She puts her phone next to his. Without turning on the recording, she's not naive enough to record someone else's conversation, but she wants to listen to what he says when he thinks she's not around. He returns 5 minutes later. He sits down. His phone vibrates. He looks at the screen and picks it up. This time, he doesn't leave. He speaks quietly, but she hears. "Go ahead." His voice was even and businesslike. "Yes. I know. No, they didn't agree." Pause. "Then settle the matter once and for all. No other options." He listens to the answer. He nods, even though his interlocutor can't see him. "I said, close it. Don't call about this anymore." He hangs up, puts the phone away, turns to Liana and smiles as if nothing had happened. "Sorry, I'm in the middle of work," he says. "It's okay," she smiles back, but inside she is cold. Close the matter once and for all. She'd heard the phrase before, in movies, on the news. It always meant the same thing. She looks at him, at his light suit, at his calm face, at his blue eyes that look at her with warmth, and she can't reconcile this man with the one who speaks such words. That night she lies awake. She realizes she's in love with him. Truly in love. She doesn't know when it happened. Maybe it was that first evening at the restaurant. Maybe it was when he sat on the floor by her door, exhausted and wounded. Maybe it was when he promised her he'd tell her everything one day. But she is in love, and it scares her, because now she doubts. Not his feelings for her. She doubts who he really is, and whether she herself might become that very question that needs to be closed. She replays his words in her head. Close the matter once and for all. What does that mean? What does he do to people who get in his way? What will he do to her if she becomes a problem for him? She doesn't know the answers, but she knows one thing. She can't leave. She can't just disappear from his life, even if it's dangerous, because her feelings for him are stronger than her fear. But she will be careful. She will continue to observe. She will continue to remember, because if one day she has to defend herself, she must know the truth, even if this truth destroys everything. Seung-hyun invites Leanna to dinner, not to the usual restaurant where they go alone. He says it's a formal event. He asks her to wear something formal. He says he wants to introduce her to his partners. Leanna chooses a dark green dress. Not black, like the first time. Green long, off the shoulder. She adjusts her hair, curls falling down her back. She looks at herself in the mirror and doesn't recognize herself. She looks as if she belongs to another world. A car comes to pick her up. The driver opens the door. She gets in. Seung-hyun is already there. He's wearing a dark suit, a white shirt, no tie. He looks at her and doesn't look away. "You look great," he says. "You too," she replies. They drive in silence. Leanna feels the tension. She doesn't know what to expect. He said, partners, but she knows that word doesn't mean the same thing in his world as it does in hers. The venue is a large building in the center. Men in black stand at the entrance. They nod to Seung-hyun and open the door. Inside is a long corridor, then a large hall. The tables are covered with white tablecloths. The lighting is dim. Soft music plays. There are already people in the room. Men in expensive suits, several women in evening gowns. When Seung-hyun enters, everyone turns. Conversations die down. He takes Leanna's hand. Not her elbow, not her wrist. Her hand. Their fingers are intertwined. He leads her to the center of the room. "This is Leanna," he says loudly so everyone can hear. "My girlfriend." The silence lasts for a few seconds. Leanna feels dozens of eyes on her. She sees faces. At first, surprise. Someone raises an eyebrow. Someone exchanges glances with a neighbor. They didn't expect this. They didn't expect him to bring anyone. And they certainly didn't expect him to hold her hand and introduce her so openly. Then their faces change. Surprise gives way to another expression. Respect, not for her, for his decision. They look at her and understand that she is not just a companion. She is his choice. And his choice is not discussed. A man approaches them. Tall, gray-haired, wearing glasses. He looks at Leanna, then at Seung-hyun. "Nice to meet you," he says to her. His voice is even, neutral. "I've heard of you." "I hope only good things," Leanna replies. The man grins. Seung-hyun squeezes her hand a little tighter. Approvingly. The evening continues. Leanna gets to know people. She memorizes names, faces. She says the right things. She smiles at the right times. She feels like an actress playing a role. But at the same time, she notices how Seung-hyun watches her every move, how he stands next to her, ready to intervene if something goes wrong. He introduces her as his girlfriend. Not as a guest, not as a companion. Exactly. And she understands what it means. He made her public. Now everyone knows. Now she is his weak spot. She thinks about this as they sit down at the table. She looks at him. He's calm, but she sees his eyes scanning the room. He never relaxes completely. A few days after that evening, Leanna receives a call from her mother. Her mother lives in another city. They speak once a week. Leanna leaves the restaurant where she and Seung-hyun had dined. He remains inside, talking to someone he knows. "I'll go out for a minute," she tells him. "I'll call my mom." He nods. She goes out into the parking lot. It's dark, only the streetlights are shining. She taps the screen and dials her mother's number. She listens to the dial tone. "Hi, Mom," she says. "Daughter, how are you?" The mother's voice was warm and familiar. "Everything is fine. I'm at a restaurant." She doesn't finish the sentence. A hand covers her mouth from behind. Strong, hard. Another hand clasps her waist. She is lifted off the ground. She drops the phone. She hears her mother screaming on the other end, but she can't answer. She's dragged to a car, a black van. The door is open. She's pushed inside. She tries to scream, but her mouth is taped shut. Her hands are tied behind her back. Someone pulls a bag over her head. Darkness. The engine starts. The car moves. Leanna can't breathe evenly. Her heart is pounding. She tries to think, but panic clouds her mind. She hears voices. Two men. They speak Korean, quickly, abruptly. She doesn't understand the words, but she understands the tone. They are businesslike. This isn't the first time they've done this. The car drives for a long time. 40 minutes, maybe an hour. Liana counts the turns, memorizes when the car brakes, when it accelerates. She tries to stay calm. It's cold inside. The floor is metal. It smells of oil and dust. The car stops. They pull her out. They lead her somewhere. The floor beneath her feet changes. First asphalt, then concrete, then wood. Hinges creak. They push her onto a chair. Her hands are tied to the armrests. The bag is removed from her head. She squints at the light. A single lamp hangs overhead. A warehouse surrounds her. A large room, high ceilings, shelves full of boxes. A concrete floor, cold. She sees two men. One is large, with a short haircut. The other is thin, with long hair pulled back into a ponytail. They don't hide their faces. They look at her without malice, as if she were an object. "She woke up," says the big one. The skinny guy comes closer. He looks down at her. "Don't shout," he says in accented English. "It's no use." Liana looks at him. She wants to ask why they did it, but her mouth is taped. She only moans. The skinny guy rips off the tape in one motion. The skin on his lips burns. "Why?" she breathes out. Her voice trembles, but she tries to speak firmly. "Don't ask stupid questions," he says, walking over to the table and grabbing a bottle of water. "We need you. Not you personally. Your friend." "What friend?" She knows the answer, but she wants to hear it. "Don't play." He drinks water. "You know, Seung Hyun. He did something he shouldn't have. Now he'll pay." She looks at him, 1,000 thoughts racing through her head. "He won't come," she says. "I'm not that important to him." The large man laughs. Roughly, briefly. "You're important," he says. "We were watching. He introduced you to everyone. You're his weakness. You're his woman. And we've been planning this since the very day he approached you in the restaurant," the thin man adds calmly. Liana's blood runs cold. "What?" She looks at him. "You thought it was a coincidence?" He puts the bottle down. "We knew he'd be there. We knew what he was doing. And when he came to you, we knew we'd found what we were looking for." She can't believe it. She remembers that evening. His look, her embarrassment, the awkward introduction. Had they been watched all this time? Had someone been waiting at all this time? "You used me," she says, her voice growing quieter. "We exploited his interest in you," the thin man corrects. "Those are two different things." He turns away. He and the big guy start talking in Korean. Liana doesn't understand the words, but she hears Seung Hyun's name. They discuss what to do next. They wait. They are sure he will come. Meanwhile, Seung Hyun is standing in the restaurant parking lot. He came out 5 minutes after Liana said she'd call her mother. She's gone. He sees his phone on the pavement. The screen is broken, but still glowing. It says, "Mom, call interrupted." He bends down and picks up the phone. His face doesn't change. Not a muscle twitches. But inside, everything is turning over. He takes out his phone and dials a number. "She's missing," he says. His voice is even, but there's a steely edge to it. "Restaurant parking. Pull up the records. Find the car, quickly." He waits. He stands in the parking lot, looking at the broken phone in his hand. The wind blows, but he doesn't notice the cold. His head is spinning. He calculates the possibilities. Who could have done this? He has many enemies, but those who would dare touch his woman are few and far between. 15 minutes later, the phone rings. "We found the car," says the voice on the other end. "A black van. The license plates are illegible. It drove off toward the industrial area." Hyun says, "I'm on my way." He gets into the car. The driver asks where to go. He gives the address he was just given. The car starts moving. On the way, they call him 3 more times. They give him details. The van was spotted near an old warehouse on the outskirts. People have already left for there. Seung Hyun listens, giving commands. His voice remains calm, but his fingers grip the phone so tightly, the plastic cracks. He knows who did it. He knows why. These are competitors, people who lost their cargo because of his orders. They don't just want revenge, they want to show him how vulnerable he is. They want to destroy his reputation by showing he can't protect his woman. He won't allow it. When the car pulls up to the warehouse, his men are already there. 3 cars, 8 men. They are waiting for his order. Hyun says, stepping out. "Quiet. I'll go first. Boss, says one of his men. It's dangerous. We don't know how many there are. I said I'm going first. Seung-hyun looks at him. There's no doubt in his eyes. He walks toward the warehouse. His men are behind him, but he doesn't turn around. He walks quickly, confidently. He has nothing in his hand. He hasn't taken a weapon. At least, not one that can be seen. Leanna sits tied to a chair in the warehouse. Her arms are numb. Her shoulders ache. She hasn't cried. In the first few minutes, when they brought her in, she wanted to cry. But she didn't allow herself to. She decided she wouldn't give them that satisfaction. She looks at her captors. The big one is sitting at the entrance, looking at his phone. The thin one is walking around the warehouse, checking windows and doors. They are waiting. They are sure that Seung-hyun will come. Leanna looks around. She notices that the large man has placed his phone on the box next to him. He doesn't look at it. He's staring at his phone, engrossed in something on the screen. The skinny man moved to the far wall. He checked the lock on the door. His back was turned to her. Leanna takes a deep breath. I need to go to the bathroom, she says loudly. The big one raises his head. What? I need to go to the bathroom, she repeats. You don't want me to ruin everything here, do you? He winces. He looks at the thin one. He nods. The big guy approaches her. He unties the ropes from the chair, but leaves them on her wrists. He pulls her up. She rises. Her legs numb. She can barely stand. Quickly, he says, pushing her toward the corner where the old sink stands. She walks. Her legs swing, as if she's barely moving. The big one walks alongside her, holding onto the rope. She takes 2 more steps, and then she falls. On purpose. She collapses on her knees, yanking the rope from his hands. He bends down to pick it up. For a second, his head is level with her face. She looks into his eyes, smiles. I'm sorry, she says. I'm so clumsy. He frowned. He pulled her up. She stood up, swaying. But while he was bending over, she had made it. Her bound hands briefly touched the drawer where his phone was. She pressed the unlock button. Luckily, the screen didn't ask for a password. She quickly opened her messages. She found the latest conversation. She wrote one word. Warehouse! She pressed send. She slid the screen shut. She put the phone back. It all took 3 seconds. She goes to the sink. The big guy stands nearby, waiting. She pretends to wash her hands. Then she returns to the chair. They tie her up again. She sits and waits. She doesn't know who the message was sent to, but she hopes it was one of Seung-hyun's people, or at least someone who will understand. 10 minutes pass. The skinny guy looks out the window and suddenly freezes. We have guests, he says. The big guy jumps up and grabs something from the table. Leanna can't see what it is, but she hears a metallic sound. The warehouse door opens. Hyun comes inside. He's alone, unguarded, unarmed. He simply walks in, as if he's coming for a meeting. He's wearing a dark suit, the same one he wore to dinner. His shirt is white, no tie. He looks at Leanna, checks if she can see, sees that she's alive, that she's okay. Then he looks at the 2 men. You made a mistake, he says calmly. A big one. The skinny man smiles, but uncertainty appears in his eyes. They expected him to come with people. They didn't expect him to come alone. Are you alone? The thin man asks. Why would I need anyone else? Seung-hyun takes a step forward. The big one steps forward. He has a knife in his hand. He swings it. Leanna doesn't fully see what happens next. It's all too fast. Seung-hyun moves as if he's done it 1,000 times. He dodges the blow. He grabs the big guy's arm and twists it. The knife falls to the floor. The big guy screams. Seung-hyun hits him in the body, then in the face. The big guy falls and doesn't get up. The skinny guy runs to the table. He reaches for something. Seung-hyun is already there. He grabs the skinny guy by the neck and pins him against the wall. He says something quietly, in Korean. Leanna doesn't hear the words, but she sees the skinny guy's face. He turns pale. He nods. Seung-hyun lets him go. The skinny one slides down the wall. Doesn't move. Silence. Seung-hyun turns to Leanna. He approaches her. He cuts the ropes on her hands. She doesn't know what he did it with. She didn't see a knife, but the ropes fall. Are you okay? He asks. His voice is even, but she can hear it shaking. Just a little. Yes, she says. I'm fine. He bends down and picks her up. He doesn't ask if she can walk on her own. He just lifts her up and holds her close. She wraps her arms around his neck. She feels his heart beating hard. He carries her out of the warehouse. His men are standing in the street. They part, making way. No one says a word. He carries her to the car. He carries her in his arms, even though it's only a few meters away. She feels his hands shaking. For the first time since they've known each other, he's strong, calm, always in control. But now his hands are shaking. She doesn't say anything. She just presses closer. He puts her in the car, sits next to her, tells the driver the address. Her address. They ride in silence. He doesn't let go of her hand. He squeezes it as if he's afraid she'll disappear. They get off at her house. They go up to the apartment. She opens the door with trembling hands. They go inside. Sung-hyun walks into the bathroom. She hears the sound of running water. She looks in. He's standing at the sink washing his hands. The water is pink. She looks at his knuckles. The skin is scraped off, blood mixing with the water. She doesn't ask whose blood it is. She takes the first aid kit. He sits on the edge of the bathtub. She takes his hands, washes them, treats them. He looks at her, doesn't look away. Then she notices a cut on his face, on his cheekbone. New, not like before. She takes the cotton wool and gently touches his face. He doesn't wince. They are silent. No one says a word. There is only the sound of the water and their breathing. She finishes. She puts away the first aid kit. He gets up. They leave the bathroom. Night. They are sitting on the couch. She doesn't turn on the light. Only the moon shines through the window. He looks ahead. He is silent for a long time. She waits. Then he starts talking. "That man in the picture," he says quietly. "He's my best friend. We grew up together. He was like a brother." She doesn't interrupt. "He betrayed me." Seung-hyun's voice is even, but there's pain in it. "He sold information to the enemy. People died because of him. My people. I did what I had to do. According to the rules. He's not with us anymore." He falls silent. He looks out the window. "I tried to keep you at a distance," he continues, "because I knew this could happen, that you'd become a target. I thought if you didn't know anything, you'd be safe. But I was wrong." He turns to face her. She sees something in his eyes she hasn't seen before. Vulnerability. "I'm sorry," he says, "for dragging you into this, for not protecting you, for putting you there because of me." She looks at him, takes his hand, squeezes it. "You came for me," she says. "Alone. You risked yourself. You are more important," he says simply. They sit in the dark. They hold hands. And in this silence, there are no more secrets between them. In the morning, he wakes up earlier. She hears him walking around the kitchen. Then he comes into the room. He sits on the edge of the bed. She opens her eyes. He places two objects in front of her. The first is a ticket. The destination is written on it, but she doesn't look. The second is a set of keys. "A ticket to anywhere in the world," he says, "and the keys to an apartment in a different neighborhood, under a different name, your new name." She looks at them, doesn't take them. "You can choose," he says. "Leave and forget me. Start a new life where no one will look for you. Or stay. But if you stay, I can't promise you'll be safe. I can only promise that I'll always protect you, and that I'll never lie to you again." She looks at the ticket, then at the keys, then at him. She takes a ticket. His face doesn't change, but she sees something go out in his eyes. She tears the ticket in half, then in half again. She places the pieces on the table. "I'm not going anywhere," she says. "But listen to me. If you want to protect me, stop hiding me. I'm not a weakness. I'm not something to be hidden in a safe. I am your support. Or I'm nothing." He looks at her. Silence. Then his face slowly changes. The heaviness lifts. Something new appears. Respect. "You're not a weakness," he says quietly. "You're the strongest thing I have." She smiles, stands up, walks to the window, looks at the city. "When was the last time we watched the sunrise?" she asks. "A long time ago." He approaches her. "Do you want to see?" "Yes." He takes her hand. They go out. They climb up to the roof. The city below is still asleep. The sky is brightening. The edges of the clouds are turning pink. They're standing on the roof of a skyscraper. The wind is blowing, but she's not cold. It's always warm next to him. The sun rises over the horizon. A golden light fills the city. Glass buildings reflect the rays. Below, the streets awaken, and cars begin to move. Liena looks at the sunrise, then at Seung-hyun. He looks at the sun. His profile is clear, his blonde hair glowing in the rays. He feels her gaze and turns. What? He asks. Nothing, she smiles. Just looking. He squeezes her hand. They both look ahead, into the unknown, into a future that won't be easy, but they look there together. They don't look away. The dawn is rising. A new day is beginning. The sun rises higher. The city below comes to life. Liana stands on the roof, feeling the wind on her face. She doesn't know what will happen next. But right now, at this moment, she doesn't want to think about the future. She simply stands next to him and looks at the light. Seung-hyun doesn't let go of her hand. He looks at the horizon, but his thoughts are somewhere far away. She can feel it in the tension in his fingers. What are you thinking about? She asks. He is silent for a few seconds. That everything will be different now, he says. I pulled you into my life. Those who did this have been punished. But there are others. There are always others. She turns to him. Are you afraid? He looks at her. His blue eyes are calm, but she can see the struggle going on inside him. I'm not afraid for myself, he says. I'm afraid for you. She nods. She understands. Then teach me, she says. He raises an eyebrow. What? How to protect myself, she says evenly, without a tremor in her voice. You won't always be here. I need to know what to do if they try to grab me again. He looks at her for a long moment. Something flickers in his gaze, respect mixed with something deeper. Are you sure? He asks. Fully. He takes a step towards her. Now they stand facing each other. He raises his hand and touches her shoulder. The first rule, he says, never show fear. Even if everything inside you is burning, people who want to harm you sense fear. It's like a smell to them. I didn't show it, she says. I didn't cry in the warehouse. He nods. He knows. His men told him that when they entered the building, she sat up straight and looked at her captors with no fear in her eyes. The second rule, he continues, always know the exit. From any place. Wherever you are, look for a way to escape. Where the back door is. Where the window is. Where you can hide. She remembers. She understands that this is not a game. He says this seriously, because this is a matter of her life. The third rule. His voice grows quieter. If you're captured, don't be silent. Scream. Fight. Do whatever it takes to get their attention. A quiet victim is an easy victim. She looks into his eyes. I hit one of them, she says, when I was falling to my knees, with my elbow in the shin. He didn't even realize it. Seung-hyun almost smiles. Almost. You are stronger than I thought, he says. You underestimate me, she looks at him defiantly. I always have, from the first day you came to my table. He squeezes her shoulder. I won't do it again, he says. They stand on the roof for a few more minutes. The sun is already fully up. The city is humming below. Come on, he says. You need to eat and rest. She nods. They go downstairs. In her apartment, he's making breakfast. She sits at the table and watches him move around the kitchen. Confident, calm, as if he's done this 1,000 times. She realizes that's true. His life wasn't always about expensive restaurants and suits. He places a plate in front of her. Eggs, rice, vegetables. Simple, but she smells it and realizes how hungry she is. Eat, he says. She eats. He sits opposite her and watches. He doesn't eat himself. He just watches her eat. Aren't you hungry? She asks. I'll eat later, he replies. She knows he's lying. He just wants to make sure she eats first. After breakfast, she goes to the shower. She stands under the hot water and feels the tension drain from her muscles. She looks at her wrists. There are red marks from the ropes on them. She rubs them, but the marks don't go away. She knows they will remind her of this day for a long time. When she comes out, he's sitting on the couch. He's holding his phone. He's reading something, but when she appears, he puts it away. Is everything okay? She asks. Yes, he says. Just work-related matters. She sits down next to him and rests her head on his shoulder. Seung-hyun, she says quietly. You promised that you wouldn't lie anymore. He freezes. What happened? She raises her head and looks at him. What are they writing? He looks at her. In his eyes, she sees that he is deciding whether to say or not. The people who kidnapped you, he says slowly. They weren't alone. They had connections. Someone gave them information. Someone knew where we would be that evening. She feels a coldness inside her. Someone from yours? He is silent. This is the answer. I'll figure it out, he says. But now you know. I keep people close to me who can't be trusted, and until I find out who they are, you won't be completely safe. She leans back on the sofa and looks at the ceiling. I still won't leave, she says. I know. He takes her hand. I didn't ask. They sit in silence. It's an ordinary apartment, an ordinary day. But there's something more between them now than just a relationship. There's an understanding that they're in this together, that she chose him, knowing who he is, and he chose her, knowing she wouldn't break. We'll start tomorrow, he says. What? You're training. I'll show you a few techniques, not so you can fight, so you can buy time, so you can escape before I get there. She turns her head and looks at him. Will you always come? Always, he says without hesitation. She trusts him, not because she's naive, but because he's already proven it. He came for her alone, unarmed, not knowing how many people were there. He came because she was there. She closes her eyes. She's tired, physically and emotionally, but there's a calm inside her that wasn't there before. She knows he's there, and she knows she made the right choice. Outside, the sun rises higher and higher. The city lives its own life, and they sit on the couch, holding hands, and prepare for what comes next. Together.